Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are talking about new releases for the end of the year. So we are on the final new release video for 2024. We're going to be talking about new releases for October, November, and December. I can't believe we're getting that far into the year, like we're at the end of the year. But I also have like 26 books to talk about today, which I feel like is quite a bit for the end of the year. Usually publishing stops putting out a lot of books, at least that I'm interested in, going into the holidays. But we have quite a bit even in December. So yeah, we're gonna jump right on in. Most of these, I don't know the nitty-gritty of the actual summary, so I am going to be reading them off of Goodreads. If anything is a sequel, I won't be doing that. I'll tell you about the book, because usually if a sequel's on here, I've read the first book, at least. So, let's get into this. We are going to be starting with October, and there are 4 books releasing on October 1st. The first one is Make the Season Bright by Ashley Herring Blake. This is going to be another sapphic romance from this author. And it says, it's been 5 years since Charlotte Donovan was ditched at the altar by her ex-fiancé, and she's doing more than okay. Sure, her single mother never checks in, but she has her strings ensemble, the Rosalind Quartet, and her life in New York is a dream come true. As the holidays draw near, her ensemble mate Sloane persuades Charlotte and the rest of the quartet to spend Christmas with her family in Colorado. It is much cozier and quieter than Manhattan, and it would guarantee more practice time for the quartet's upcoming tour. But when Charlotte arrives, she discovers that Sloane's sister Adele also brought a friend home, and that friend is none other than her ex, Brighton. All Brighton Fairbrook wanted was to have the holliest, jolliest Christmas, and to forget that her band kicked her out, but instead she stuck pretending like she and her ex are strangers, which proves to be difficult when Sloane and Adele's mom signs them all up for a series of Christmas dating events. Charlotte and Brighton are soon entrenched in horseback riding and cookie decorating, but Charlotte still won't talk to her. Brighton can hardly blame her after what she did. After a few days, however, things start to slip through. Memories, music, the way they used to play together, Brighton on guitar, Charlotte on her violin, and it all feels painfully familiar. But it's all in the past and nothing can melt the ice in their hearts, right? So this obviously is going to be like a second chance romance, which I'm not the biggest fan of that trope. However, I've liked a lot of what I've read from Ashley Herring Blake before, so Christmas romance, we shall see. Then I also have The Merriest Misters by Timothy Janofsky, another Christmas romance. This one says it's going to be the Santa Claus meets husband material. Fixing Christmas? Easy. Fixing their marriage? Not so much. Patrick Hargrave and Quinn Mueller have been married for less than a year, but their passionate romance is cracking under the pressures of domestic life and a cumbersome mortgage. That's until Christmas Eve when Patrick wakes Quinn up. I think I've killed a man. Quinn realizes the burglar Patrick knocked out is none other than Mr. Claus himself. Instructed by a harried elf to don the red suit and take the reins of the reindeer-guided sleigh up on the roof, Quinn and Patrick work together to save Christmas. But as the sun rises on Christmas morning, the sleigh brings them back to the North Pole instead of New Jersey, and they're in for a massive shock. The couple must assume the roles of Santa Claus and the first ever Merriest Mister, or Christmas will be canceled permanently. With Christmas and their marriage on the line, Patrick and Quinn agree to stay together for 1 year, but can running a toy shop together save their relationship, or will Patrick and Quinn be stuffing coal in each other's stockings come next Christmas? Moving on from Christmas romances right now, we also have Model Home by Rivers Solomon. The 3 Maxwell siblings keep their distance from the lily-white gated enclave outside Dallas where they grew up. When their family moved there, they were the only black family in the neighborhood. The neighbors acted nice enough, but right away bad things, scary things, the strange and the unexplainable began to happen in their house. Maybe it was some cosmic trial, a demonic rite of passage into the upper middle class. Whatever it was, the Maxwells, steered by their formidable mother, stayed put, unwilling to abandon their home, terrors and trauma be damned. As adults, the siblings could finally get away from the horrors of home, leaving their parents all alone in the house. But when news of their parents' death arrives, Esri is forced to return to Texas with their sisters, Eve and Emmanuel, to reckon with the family's past and present, to find out what happened while they were away. It was not a natural death for their parents, but was it supernatural? So we're having a haunted house story by Rivers Solomon, who I've loved the deep, was okay with an unkindness of ghosts, so I'm really curious about this one. And then we also have Zodiac Rising by Katie Zhao. This looks to be the first book in a new young adult fantasy series. So, at a secret Manhattan boarding school, the descendants of the Chinese zodiac have hidden away since the source of their magic, the 12 zodiac statues, was vandalized and lost to time. Thus, a curse befell the descendants, and they've lived as creatures of darkness until now. When the lost statues suddenly resurface and a powerful classmate is found dead, all signs point to foul play from the Fae. The descendants finally have the chance to take back what's rightfully theirs and break the curse. To pull this deadly heist off, though, they must assemble an elite crew. The Vampire. After a century of burning hunger, Evangeline is out for blood. The Shapeshifter. Nicholas yearns to restore justice to his people and make peace with his past. The Mortal. Alice seeks the truth of her mysterious heritage, and this mission may be the key. The Werewolf. Tristan will do anything to break free from the monstrous wolf inside. Only these four have the power to save the descendants, but the wrath of the Fae waits at every turn. One wrong move and the fate of their kind will come crashing down. Then moving into October 8th, there are 5 books coming out on that day. The first one we have here is Love You a Latke by Amanda Elliott. Snow is falling, holiday lights are twinkling, and Abby Cohen is pissed. For one thing, her most annoying customer Seth has been coming into her cafe every morning with his sunshiny attitude, determined to break down her carefully constructed emotional walls. And as the only Jew on the tourism board of her Vermont town, Abby's been charged with planning their fledgling Hanukkah festival. Unfortunately, the local vendors don't understand the story of Hanukkah, cannot be told with the light-up plastic figures from the nativity scene, even if the 3 wise men wear yarmulkes. Desperate for support, Abby put out a call for help online and discovers she was wrong about being the only Jew within 100 miles. There's one, Seth. As it turns out, Seth's parents have been badgering him to bring a nice Jewish girlfriend home to New York City for Hanukkah, and if Abby can survive his incessant, irritatingly handsome smiles, he'll introduce her to all the vendors she needs to make the festival a success. But over latkes, donuts, and winter adventures in Manhattan, Abby begins to realize that her fake boyfriend and his family might be igniting a flame in her own guarded heart. Then we have a middle grade fantasy that looks very intriguing called The Graveyard Gift by Fern Forgettable. And the series is Fern's School for Wayward Fae. So I'm assuming Fern Forgettable is a pen name, sort of like Lemony Snicket. I don't know. It also says that the narrator is Piper CJ. I don't know if that's the actual author or not, but yeah. A girl who knows how you die, her banshee roommate who knows when it happens, and wishes that sometimes, maybe, come true. Rosemary Thorpe has always been a bit different. She has the uncanny and unfortunate ability to foresee people's deaths, which tend to land her in hot water. Well, not actual hot water. Where it lands her is a place between worlds called Fern's School for Wayward Fae, where Rosemary learns that her powers come from being part Fae. At Fern's school, Rosemary meets others who are part Fae, including Trim, her banshee roommate whose screams can kill, and Essie, a djinn who grants wishes. But just as Rosemary settles in, a student vanishes in thin air, and it's up to all the kids to use their curious gifts to find their missing friend. We also have How to Summon a Fairy Godmother by Laura J. Mayo, and this one sounds very intriguing as well. Lady Theodosia Balfour has certainly gotten the short end of the stick. Her stepsister, the newly crowned Princess Beatrice, is telling everyone in polite society that Theo, her sister, and their mother are evil, wicked, and horrible people who treated her like a slave. Though Thea knows this isn't exactly true, it seems her life is thoroughly ruined by the rumor. When the Balfour family estate is on the verge of bankruptcy, Theo's only path forward is a forced betrothal to the Duke of Snowbell, a foul-tempered geezer who wishes only to use her as a broodmare for spare heirs. Desperate for help, Theo clings to the only thing that might save her, the rumor of a fairy godmother, one that supposedly helped her stepsister secure a prince. After discovering a way to summon a fairy in Beatrice's old room, Theo thinks her prayers have been answered. But the fairy she meets isn't at all what she imagined. Drop-dead gorgeous, incredibly cunning, and slightly devious, Cecily of the Ash Fairies is much more interested in gathering powerful favors and smoking her pipe than providing charitable magic for humans in a bind. Before she receives magical assistance, Cecily sets Theo on 3 tasks, seemingly to prove that Theo is a selfless and kind person, though she begins to suspect there may be more to these tasks than originally stated. Helping her along the way are Cecily's familiars, the flirty human-turned-mockingbird Phineas, and the aloof Kasara, a fox shapeshifter who should not be as handsome as he is for someone with such cutting remarks. As Theo works on her tasks, she shockingly finds kinship with the magical creatures she's helping and starts to wonder if a continued life among her human peers is what she really wants, after all. Then we also have The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Rosh. So this is Red, White, and Royal Blue meets The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is going to be like a paranormal fantasy romance type of thing. Let's get into it. So, Nicholas Cole Klaus used to love Christmas until his father, the reigning Santa, turned the holiday into a PR facade. Cole will do anything to escape the spectacle, including getting tangled in a drunken, supremely hot makeout session with a beautiful man behind a seedy bar one night. But the heir to Christmas is soon commanded to do his duty. He will marry his best friend, Iris, the Easter princess, and his brother's not-so-secret crush, a situation that has disaster written all over it. Things go from bad to worse when a rival arrives to challenge Cole for the princess's hand, and Cole comes face to face with his mysterious behind-the-bar hottie, Hex, the Prince of Halloween. It's a fake competition between two holiday princes who can't keep their hands off each other over a marriage of convenience that no one wants. And it all leads to one of the sweetest, sexiest, messiest, most delightfully unforgettable love stories of the year. Like, this just sounds right up my alley. And the last one out that day is Haunt Your Heart Out, which says, homebody Lex McCall loves her sleepy Vermont town and quiet bookstore job. After her family, friends, and exes all moved away to seek futures elsewhere, Lex set one rule: no dating tourists, newcomers, or anyone else who is bound to leave her behind. When the bookshop owner, eager to offload this supposedly haunted building, offers to sell the store to Lex at an unbeatable price, Lex jumps at the chance to further put down roots. Then, handsome stranger James stops by the bookstore. Lex assumes he's just another tourist passing through, but it turns out he's part of a ghost hunting documentary crew that's looking into the many verified ghost stories in town. Lex can't resist getting involved, especially because these so-called ghosts are actually made-up stories from Haunted Happenings, her hobby vlog from a decade prior. Worried her ghost faking secret will get out and ruin her chance to buy the store, she tampers with the ghost hunter's research and skews the results. After all, James' stay is only temporary and her career dreams come first. But as they spend more time together, Lex realizes she's falling for James. Worse, there's more at stake than her simply being found out and losing. His mission isn't as frivolous as it seems, and her interference may cost him more than a spooky story. This not-quite ghost story is sure to delight Gilmore Girl fans and anyone who loves flirty romances with a little extra spirit. So it does sound like this one's not necessarily a paranormal romance, but I love the Gilmore Girl aspect, and it just sounds really, really cute, so yeah. Then, moving on to October 15th, there are 4 books releasing on this date. The first is Sorcery and Small Magics by Maiga Ducey. Leavander Lavage is a master of small magics. He can summon butterflies with a song or turn someone's hair pink by snapping his fingers. Such minor charms don't earn him much admiration from other sorcerers or his father, but anything more elaborate always blows up in his face, which is why Leo vowed years ago to never again write powerful magic. That is, until a mix-up involving a forbidden spell binds Leo to obey the commands of his longtime nemesis, Sebastian Grimm. Grimm is Leo's complete opposite. Respected, exceptionally talented, and an absolutely insufferable curmudgeon. The only thing they agree on is that getting caught using forbidden magic would mean the end of their careers. They need a counterspell and fast, but Grimm casts spells, he doesn't undo them, and Leo doesn't mess with powerful magic. Chasing rumors of a powerful sorcerer with a knack for undoing curses, Leo and Grimm enter the Unquiet Wood, a forest infested with murderous monsters and dangerous outlaws alike. To dissolve the curse, they'll have to uncover the true depths of Leo's magic, set aside their long-standing rivalry, and, much to their horror, work together, even as an odd spark of attraction flares between them. And then we also have Uncanny, The Origins of Fear by Junji Ito. So, this one, I absolutely love Junji Ito. I've read everything he's ever done in English. This is going to be a nonfiction memoir sort of thing. It says, horror manga legend Junji Ito has fascinated the world with his beautiful and strange tales, starting with his debut story Tomi, and followed by Uzumaki, Gyo, and many other famous works. In this memoir/horror manga analysis, he tells all and digs into dark recesses, reflections on influences from his childhood, thoughts on manga, next level idea generation techniques, character design, craftsmanship, and more. Chock full of never before told insider anecdotes and behind the scenes stories, this is a must-have book for fans to immerse themselves completely in the world of Junji Ito. Again, not something that I would normally gravitate towards, except for the fact that I love Junji Ito, and I'm very, very curious about this one. Then we also have A Spell for Heartsickness by Alastair Reeves. Witchbriar Wingrave's time is limited. The wasting curse that killed his mother is coming for him too, consuming his magic bit by bit. At least he'll have the chance to make his name as a magical fashion designer with an elite placement in Pentawin, the country's glittering capital, after graduation. Until, that is, a prophecy sends him to the remote island of Coildarag. That sounds Welsh. I am probably totally saying that wrong. Instead, in search of a predestined lover with a mysterious mask. When Briar arrives with his grumpy magpie familiar, Vati, he finds an unwelcoming town, a murdered poltergeist named Gretchen in his apartment, and a handsome alderman named Rowan with a haunting scar. He also gets pulled into the mysterious magic of the darkly enchanted forest that surrounds the town and seems to have something to do with his curse. As if all that weren't enough, famous witch Lyndon Fairchild has come to town complete with a charismatic smile, an unreadable aura, and a surefire plan to cure curses. How is a cursed witch to know which enchanting man is his destiny? And can Briar possibly make an impact as a magical fashion designer in this tiny town? One thing is certain, a witch's magic requires a tithe, a berry, a feather, a cut into flesh, and Coil Darag? May take tithes Briar isn't ready to give. And then we also have If I Stopped Haunting You by Colby Wilkins. It's been months since horror author Penelope Skinner threw a book at Neil Storm, but he was so infuriating with his sparkling green eyes and his best-selling horror novels that claimed to break native stereotypes. And now she's a publishing pariah and hasn't been able to write a word since. So when her friend invites her on a too good to be true writer's retreat in a supposedly haunted Scottish castle, she seizes the opportunity. Of course, some things really are too good to be true. Neil wants nothing less than to be trapped in a castle with the frustratingly adorable woman who threw a book at him. She drew blood. Worse still, she unleashed a serious case of self-doubt. Neil is terrified to write another best-selling book without a soul, as Penn called it. All Neil wants is to find inspiration while completely avoiding her. But as the retreat begins, Penn and Neil are stunned to find themselves trapped in a real-life ghost story. Even more horrifying, they're stuck together, and a truly shocking, extremely hot, almost kiss has left them rethinking their feelings, and maybe they shouldn't have been enemies at all. But if they can't stop the ghosts pursuing them, they may never have the chance to find out. Okay, then we're moving into October 24th, where there's only one book coming out, and that is going to be Under the Mistletoe with You by Lizzie Huxley Jones. This is the same author as Make You Mine This Christmas, which I read a couple years ago, absolutely loved. That was a sapphic romance. This one's gonna be male. So, ready to spend a quiet Christmas with his nearest and dearest, Christopher has closed up shop in his bakery. He's wrapped up and packed up his presents, and he's found someone to stay in his flat over the festive period. Everything is under control. That is until the mysterious person he's rented his flat to turns out to be none other than Nash Nadeau, an actor, and the star of all Christopher's favorite Christmas movies. In fact, he's the guy Christopher's been crushing on for the whole past year, since last Christmas. For Nash, this Christmas was a chance to escape Hollywood, to go to a small town and hide away alone, in a place where no one knows who he is. But when a huge snowstorm hits, the whole country grinds to a halt. There's no way Christopher is leaving, and there's nowhere else for Nash to stay. The two of them are just going to have to weather this together, snowed in for Christmas. Then we're going to be moving into November. On November 5th, there are 3 books coming out. The first is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. Tao is an immigrant fortune teller traveling between villages with just her trusty mule for company. She only tells small fortunes. Whether it will hail next week, which boy the barmaid will kiss, when the cow will calve. She knows from bitter experience that big fortunes come with big consequences. Even if it's a lonely life, it's better than the one she left behind. But a small fortune unexpectedly becomes something more when a semi-reformed thief and an ex-mercenary recruit her into their desperate search for a lost child. Soon they're joined by a baker with a need for adventure, K-N-E-A-D, and of course a slightly magical cat. Tao sets down a new path with companions as big-hearted as her fortunes are small, but as she lowers her walls, the shadows of her past are closing in, and she'll have to decide whether to risk everything to preserve the family she never thought she could have. We also have Mr. Nice Spy by Tiana Smith. This is my spy number 2, and I have not read number 1, but I'm pretty sure you can read them either way. But just in case it's not, I'm gonna read like the small summary. A pyrotechnic engineer discovers her biological father is an international criminal. She must work with a sexy CIA agent to take him down in this thrilling rom-com adventure. It does look like it's also going to have a fake relationship in it, which is one of my favorite things. I'll have to double check before I get into this, like if I have to read book 1 before I read this one, but I really do want to read this as well. And then we also have Something is Killing the Children, Volume 8 by James Tinian IV. From my understanding, this is a set of short stories set in the Something is Killing the Children universe. It does say a special standalone of brand new stories set in the award-winning Slaughterverse. I have no idea if the actual series is continuing on past this. This is technically collecting issues 36 through 40, and I finished up to there earlier this year. It also mentions that it is supposed to be a great starting place for new readers ahead of the Netflix series. I did hear that they picked it up, but I'm curious with the fact that you can pick this up first, even if you haven't read anything else yet. We'll see about this one. Then we're going to move into November 12th. There are 2 books coming out on this date. The first is Her Night at the Museum by Bryn Donovan. Forgotten by time and abandoned by hope, Sir Griffin de Beaufort's existence stretches out before him. Cursed by a ruthless enchanter to see, hear, and think, but never to move or speak, Griffin suffers the long, lonely centuries trapped in stone, until an unexpected kiss from a fair maiden breathes new life into his soul and body. Emily Porter, a recently divorced conservator at the Art Institute of Chicago, is charged with the restoration of a statue of a medieval English knight. Breaking curses was not part of the job description, and yet here he is, the man of her dreams come to life, resplendent in shining armor, as he joyously barrels into priceless antiques, and goes on to dismantle her defenses, wreak havoc on her senses, and tempt her to believe once more in happily ever afters. But the modern age tries Griffin's patience and pride, and Emily is a prime suspect in the investigation of the missing sculpture. In a complicated world, can they find their way to a fairy tale ending? And then we also have Sheltering Eaves Volume 1 by Rie Aruga. So this one is a new series by the author of Perfect World. I actually already read this Volume 1, so it is something that I want to let you guys know about. But it's a new series. This is going to be following YA characters with some hard topics, because this is about kids in the sort of like foster group home setting in Japan. So it does mention in the volume that I've read, there's like little notes of like, this is where she got her data from. So it looks like she is basing it off of like traditional group home settings in Japan. It is not set current day. It is set a little while ago, like early 2000s, early 2010s, something like that. But I'm very curious to see where this story is going to go. I liked the first volume well enough, and if you've been interested in this author, or you like the like harder topics as well as what could potentially be a romance later on, I think this is definitely one to try out. Then moving into November 19th, there are 2 books coming out on this date. The first is The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso. Kimbrel Thorne is spending a few hours away from her newborn, and she's determined to enjoy the party no matter what. But when the guests start dropping dead, Kem has no choice but to get to work. She's a member of the Guild of Hounds after all, and she can't help picking up the scent of trouble. She's not the only one. Her professional and personal nemesis, notorious burglar Rika Nanasech, is on the prowl. They quickly identify what's causing the mayhem, a mysterious grandfather clock that sends them down an echo every time it chimes. In each strange new layer of reality, time resets and a sinister figure appears to perform a blood-soaked ritual. As Kem and Rika fall into increasingly macabre versions of their city, they'll need to rely on their wits and each other to unravel the secret of the clock and save their city. And then we also have The Half King by Melissa Landers. This is a very small summary here on Goodreads. It says, Beauty and the Beast meets the Sandman in this all-new, scorching hot, new adult fantasy. In a world where every firstborn child of the noble houses bears a curse, and only one heretic cult might hold the answers to breaking them. I'm very curious about this one. I think I saw a little bit more about it on the author's social media. And then we are actually jumping into December now. There are 2 books releasing on December 3rd. The first is Unraveled by Shannon Messenger. This is book 9.5 of Keeper of the Lost Cities. I'm not up to this point, but I'm still very, very excited for this. This is 9.5 in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. However, there was also, I think, an 8.5, and they are still big, chunky books that you do need to read in order to continue in this series. I believe they're more like a 0.5 because they're not following Sophie, who our main character is, like her point of view as much. So they're a little bit different, even though you still do need to read them. This is going to be in Keith's point of view, who is one of my favorite characters up until the point that we got to. So again, very, very excited. This is a middle grade series that is very magic and fantastical, and I talk about it a lot on my channel, so I'm ready for this next one, even though I'm not caught up yet. Then we also have Cemetery Kids Don't Die, Volume 1 by Zach Thompson. The 21st century sucks hard, but it's made somewhat tolerable by the latest and greatest media innovations. Enter the first gaming console played entirely while you sleep. The obsession of millions around the globe, it's also the one point of solace for 4 friends known as the Cemetery Kids, who spend their nights roaming the endless maps of the most brutal horror game ever created as they seek to dethrone the King of Sleep, the Dreamwave's biggest, baddest, and most mysterious boss. Which was fun until one of them doesn't wake up and finds their consciousness locked inside a horror game that is anything but imaginary. Now the 3 remaining Cemetery Kids must navigate a forbidden landscape to rescue their friend, and pray that the secret lurking at its center doesn't follow them home. Then we're going to be moving to December 10th. We have one book, which is What the Woods Took by Courtney Gold. Yellow Jackets meets Girl Interrupted. Devin Green wakes in the middle of the night to find 2 men in her bedroom. No stranger to a fight, she calls to her foster parents for help, but it soon becomes clear this is a planned abduction, one everyone but Devin signed up for. She's shoved in a van and driven deep into the Idaho woods, where she's dropped off with a cohort of equally confused teens. Finally, 2 camp counselors inform them that they've all been enrolled in an experimental therapy program. If the campers can learn to change their self-destructive ways and survive a 50 days hike through the wilderness, they'll come out the other side as better versions of themselves, or so the counselors say. Devin is immediately determined to escape. She's also determined to ignore Sheridan, the cruel-mouthed, lavender-haired bully who mocks every group exercise. But there's something strange about these woods. Inhuman faces appearing between the trees, visions of people who shouldn't be there flashing in the leaves, and when the campers wake up to find both counselors missing, therapy becomes the least of their problems. Stranded and left to fend for themselves, the teens quickly realize they'll have to trust each other if they want to survive. But what lies in the woods may not be as dangerous as what the campers are hiding from each other, and if the monsters have their way, no one will leave the woods alive. Then moving on to December 24th, we have one book coming out, which is going to be Heavenly Tyrant by Zhao. This is like my most anticipated book of the year, and it's coming out the day before Christmas. This is going to be like crazy to try to get a hold of. This is the sequel to Iron Widow, which was my favorite book of the year that it came out. Like, I absolutely loved it. It is YA sci-fi with mechas, and it definitely has this like sort of like bring down the patriarchy situation. It's taking Chinese historical figures and putting them in this YA sci-fi setting, and it's very, very intriguing. Like, I loved it so much, but also like the last 100 pages of book 1 felt like they went at like such a fast rate of speed because you just wanted to keep going to figure out what was happening, and then it ended on a cliffhanger. So I need this book. And then finally, moving on to December 31st, the last day of the year, we have X Marks the Spot by Gloria Chow. For Gemma's whole life, it has always been her and her mom against the world. As far as she knew, all her grandparents and thus her ties to Taiwanese culture were dead. Until one day when a mysterious man shows up at her door with 2 shocking news. Her grandfather has just recently passed, and the first clue to a treasure hunt that Gemma hopes will lead to her inheritance. There's just one major problem. To complete the hunt, she has to go to her grandfather's home in Taiwan, and the only way she can get there is by asking her ex and biggest high school rival Xander for help. But after swallowing her pride, Gemma finds herself halfway across the world, ready to unearth her life-changing prize. Soon Gemma discovers that the treasure hunt is about much more than money. It's about finally learning about her family, her cultural roots, and maybe even finding true love. It says it's filled with ingenious puzzles, a vibrant Taipei setting, and a delicious romance. It is going to be perfect for fans of Love Boat Taipei, the Inheritance Games, and 13 Little Blue Envelopes. I'm very, very intrigued by this. So this is taking us all the way through December 31st, like up to the end of the year. I feel like most times I don't have books that I want to read coming out past maybe the beginning of December. So yeah, lots of things actually coming out near the end of the year. I'm very excited. Let me know what you're most excited for at the end of the year, if you have any new releases you're waiting for. And that's going to be it from me today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Saturdays. So I will see you then. Bye!